We're live.
Thanks so much, Daphne. Welcome back to Senate Education. It is Tuesday, January 25th. So just to wrap up a little bit and put some temporary closure around Mr. Nichols' comments, it sounds to me that, or what I'd like people to consider is giving school districts, giving school boards a period of time to make these decisions locally, find and consider what we might do if, what the repercussions are if districts don't. 3 years seems like a long time to work on something like this to me, but others may feel otherwise. But again, it seems to me it's a little bit of a compromise from the idea of just saying, we're done. You know, if you have a mascot, will just say at this point, you know, racist or discriminatory mascot, it's over. This would give you, you know, 12 months or something to fix this situation. And then what might come if you don't, then that's something we can talk about. Just something to consider. Seems to me that to continue this, allow this kind of business as usual thing doesn't make sense on any level. So if anybody has any questions or comments, Senator Hooker.
I'd like to see something in whatever we do that suggests who might be making these decisions. I think, you know, what
If the school board does.
If this, I'm sorry?
You're saying if the school board does not make the decision, who will make the decision?
Well, yeah, or as, you know, Mr. Nichols said, the community should have a conversation on this. So
Right.
who's really going to be in charge of making this decision? I mean, we've seen what's happened
Who's in charge of making this
2
now?
years, you know.
Right.
Well, it depends. I mean, if a school decides, you know, has a conversation and the school body takes a vote, the community takes a vote, the school board takes a vote, I don't know who should be in charge. I was struck by Mr. Nichols' comment about a small group of adults making a decision that's going to affect, you know, all of the kids, you know, and certainly with this bill, to have athletes paying a price for a small group that is making the decision would seem unfair. So,
Right. And Ms. St. James, if you would please start to look into for us, make sure, there you are, great. Where does the authority rest? I mean, the authority must rest somewhere. Sure, I guess there can be ideas where the principal comes out and says something, but the authority on these kinds of decisions, I suspect, rests, like that's already been determined, I think. And if you could, maybe you know the answer now, but if not, if you could take a look at that and get back to us in the next couple of days, that would be great. I suspect it's with the school boards, and that's who we would be directing. I think that's where these kinds of things usually come from.
I do not know the answer, but happy to look into it.
Senator Hooker, does that make sense to you as a next step?
yeah, it does. I know that I wish that there had been a broader discussion among the kids, the students population, you know, at the school in Rutland, but the school board made the decision.
Right, and this is something what we might work with Sue Siglowski on to say, even though, again, the power and the authority for this decision, which I suspect does lie with the school board, but encourage school board members, you know, to hear from kids, to hear from students, to help, you know, to involve them in this conversation.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else at this point? Okay, so Ms. St. James has some language for us. I believe it's on our website. I think that's where I saw it first. And so if you'll just give me 1 second to get there. Okay. So this is potential language for kindergarten entrance age study. Ms. St. James, floor is yours.
Thank you. Beth St. James, Legislative Counsel. Does everyone have access to it on the website? Has everyone found the proposed language? Okay.
Thanks.
So in current state law in Title 16, Chapter 25 is the attendance and discipline chapter. And then within that, legal pupil is defined in Section 1073. And so right now, a school district may require that students admitted to kindergarten have attained the age of 5 before they can go to kindergarten. And then there's a window of time that is up to each school district to determine the cutoff age. And that's any date between August 31st and January 1st. So right now, school districts can require children, in order to be eligible to enroll in school for the school year, to be 5 anywhere in that window. And there does not, under current state law, have to be any consistency between school districts. So I worked a little bit with Senator Chittenden before the session started on some language that is before you today, which reads, on or before December 15th, 2022, the Agency of Education shall issue a written report to the Senate and House Committees on Education on the impact of standardizing the entrance age threshold for public school kindergarten attendance. In preparing the report, the Agency of Education shall consult with the Vermont School Boards Association, the Vermont Principals Association, the Vermont Superintendents Association, and the Vermont National Education Association. And the report shall include any recommendations for legislative action. So it would be a study, a report to the committees on whether any sort of standardization, the effect of any sort of standardization on that entrance age threshold that is currently arranged now, whether standardizing that would have any, what the impacts of that would be.
Senator Chittenden, any comments?
Sure. Yes. This has come up by different constituents, and I will also say that I personally have this. I have 3 kids, and I have one daughter that was September 2nd, so I know this issue firsthand. And all I was interested in bringing this up this session is getting a better handle on the impact of this statewide. I don't know when Title 16, Chapter 25, VSA 16, Subchapter 1073 was put in place, but I do know that Vermont is rather an outside of the norm when it comes to allowing local education agencies to set a date within a window. So I would think it would be helpful for us as we wrestle with childcare demands, as well as when I saw Senator Clarkson's and Senator Nitka's bill on the age of the child, I know that this factors into it, because there are communities that currently are setting it at the earliest possible date, which when you do the math out, that is making the average age of our children older by about a whole 4 months or a third. So I would be interested, rather than coming up with language specifically saying we need to change this, to just have the stakeholders that know these issues and know in the schools what the actual observed impact of this has been across different communities. And that's why I really looked at a study from the Agency of Education as the best first step. I did start some different conversations with constituencies out there. I don't feel, as I was about to start calling all the different school districts and asking their thoughts on when their ages are, I realized I have 1,000 other things to be doing. And so that's where I thought maybe the experts that know who to call and who to ask on this could inform future legislatures about how this is affecting our macro childcare issues and how we compare and what we've observed over this time. I don't know if that's what you're looking for, Senator Campion, but I just think this is a worthwhile use of our attention.
Yeah, no, I think so too. Senator Lyons.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good idea. I think currently that kids are screened before they go into school, and and I think it's is it CDD, the Child Development Division, or perhaps Department of Health. Beth, can you help me? I'm trying to remember who actually does the screening, but it might be important to include those folks, or if there's any Department of Health data indicating readiness, school readiness that we might have in some of our Department of Health data. Yeah, that's all.
Ms. St. James, would you mind drafting this and put it into a committee bill, since we need to make sure our deadline is Friday? I'd like to title it sort of miscellaneous education, this committee bill, because I'd like this just to be ready to throw a few more things on there if need be, including perhaps, if we need to, the Community College of Vermont language. In fact, you can go ahead and put whatever, you can put that in there, because we can always adjust it and always change it. We can always pull it out, but I need some kind of vehicle. We need some kind of vehicle to get some of these, not unimportant, but perhaps smaller bills in and move them. And we will be hearing, I'm sure, as we continue to get reports back on school discipline, on radon and other things, there might be, we just need a vehicle. We do have one old vehicle that a House bill that we can always use, but I'd like to have a miscellaneous education bill as well. So if you wouldn't mind packaging that puppy up, and then what we can do is, however we need to do it, if you would just touch base with maybe Secretary Bloomer, if that's appropriate. What do we need to do between now and Friday to make sure we don't lose that?
Excellent. I was going to bring that up as a reminder anyway, so perfect.
Yep, great. Okay. Yeah, Senator Hooker, please.
I know that this bill is intended to study, the dates. I just wonder if we could get a sense, and I know Senator Chittenden, you referred to schools starting at the earliest possible date and the kids being older. Do we have a sense of the districts and when they start? Are most of them around the 1st of September, for instance?
I can only offer my, sorry.
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
The personal information that I have is Essex, for example, has it as September 1st, but Williston, if they haven't changed it in the past 5 or 6 years, they have it December 31st, and they also have differing evaluations. So, Senator Lyons, I'm interested to know more about how the CDD might be doing it, but on my
I don't know who's doing the evaluation, Senator, which is why I asked the question. So maybe there's an issue there about having some some consistency around that.
I know
Yeah,
some.
But the other thing we might do is to think about the first day of school starting after Labor Day.
Mhm.
Used to.
I know, and it's a concern that even though we're not an agricultural state anymore, camps, resorts and other places have kids working over the Labor Day weekend, and they find it so difficult to get back to school. So we did pass that out of the Senate. I don't remember when. I introduced it as an amendment on the floor, but would be an interesting discussion.
Well, this vehicle may be one that you might want to work to attach something like that to.
Okay.
Yeah, Senator Persley.
On the start of the school year, we did talk about a uniform school calendar.
Yeah.
I think something Secretary French has brought up before, and there's difficulties once you get into it, but I know it's something that AOE thinks would be positive in the long run.
Yeah, I think it would be positive in the long run too. I think it would make a lot of parents really pleased. Save money in the long run, all those kinds of things. I would, one thing that we might put in there, Ms. St. James, is just as we're thinking about miscellaneous ed stuff, is directing the agency to come back, give us the calendar. We can't really sit here, and say, hey, this is the week that people have to have off. But let's give them a year to come back to us with a uniform calendar. And I hear it a lot, parents, if you're looking for somebody to take care of your kids 1 week, and then the other kids have, they can't travel, they can't do all sorts of things. So the other thing I'm wondering if you might consider putting in there would be, I don't know what we'll do with this, but I know that I have a note here from someone on this committee that we should amend the school discipline bill to include independent schools. And so that's another thing that I think could go in there with what will end up being this miscellaneous ed bill. Okay. Anything else for Ms. St. James, or any final comments? Tomorrow we will hear from hopefully Peter Teachout, but we'll have Jim Demaray, if not Peter, if not both of them. Again, continuing this conversation, and we'll build in some time to really have a conversation around what direction everyone wants to move in as it relates to church and state and anti-discrimination policy. Okay, snowing in Montpelier. I'm gonna, if you got cross-country skis, get on them. Anything else from anybody? Okay, thanks for a great afternoon.